All right, this is the 4th episode of the Flickr podcast. Today we're going to talk about overall from the top down societal manipulation. To get a good handle on this, we actually plugged into ChatGTP and asked it to give us some bullet points of things we can look out for that would show a society is being manipulated. We also asked it to tell us if a society is within that manipulation, how it can get out of it. It put out surprisingly good results. So we're going to go over that. But before we do, this is Wally.
Hey, folks, strap in. I think this is going to be a good one.
And I'm Dave. And if you would do us a huge favor, hit the like button down below. Make sure you click the subscribe button. And we also want to know what you guys think about this topic particularly. So any thoughts you have on this or personal experiences you have on this, put those in the comment section below, and we will address them and get a discussion started down there. Okay, let's quickly go over the prompts that ChatGTP gave us. The first one that ChatGTP returned to us was censorship and information suppression. It says reports by organizations like Reporters Without Borders or Freedom House, which monitor press freedom and censorship globally. And then it gives an example. In 2023, World Press Freedom Index showed that 75% of the world's population lives in countries where journalism is either totally blocked or seriously impeded, reflecting how governments control culture narratives by limiting freedom of press. And then it also goes on to reference China's Great Firewall, in which they use to limit the information access that their citizens have. Okay, the next prompt that it gave us was media ownership and control, concentration of media ownership. And then it says, few corporations like Disney, Comcast, and News Corp control the majority of media outlets in the United States or globally. The Media Reform Coalition or Columbia Journalism Review provides stats that reveal how few entities shape public narratives. Then it says, example, in the United States, 6 corporations control roughly 90% of the media, limiting the diversity of viewpoints available to the public. The next one it gave us was social media algorithms and influences. Studies on algorithmic bias. Research from institutions like Harvard or MIT that show how social media platforms use algorithms to create filter bubbles and echo chambers, steering users towards specific content. Example, a 2018 study from MIT found that false information spread 6 times quicker than truth on Twitter, demonstrating how misinformation can easily manipulate public perception. Facebook and Cambridge Analytica scandal. How personal information was harvested to create targeted political ads, swaying elections like Brexit in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Another return was surveillance and privacy invasion. Data from surveillance studies. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, or the ACLU, offer reports on how government and corporations use surveillance to monitor and influence public behavior. The example, in 2020, the European Digital Rights Union reported that nearly 60% of EU citizens were under some form of actual state surveillance, illustrating the manipulation of behavior through fear and control. And the last one is academic studies on cultural manipulation. Studies in psychology and sociology that show how human behavior can be influenced through media, social norms, and peer pressure. Example, the Milgram experiment or Stanford prison experiment both illustrate how authority and situational control can manipulate individuals' behavior. So those are the top 5 prompts that we're going to use as a reference point to talk about societal manipulation.
The first one, censorship. Wow, I feel that. I think we all do. We've all seen it. It's interesting how the prompt mentions China and how most of the world has controlled media. But here in the West, we were getting a little taste of that here in the last, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. I think it's starting to come up on more and more people's radar that the press is a little less trustworthy than people may have thought in the beginning, or actually much less trustworthy than I thought.
It reminds me of this video, the Mockingbird Media video. Where they have these local media outlets, and this brilliant editor puts it together, and it starts with just like 4, and then it goes to 8 people talking, and then 16 people talking, and they're all verbatim saying the same thing.
Yeah. I know the video you're talking about. That's actually an extremely powerful video.
Yeah. That woke a lot of people up.
Yeah. We should pull one of those up real quick.
Yeah, let's check it out.
In case people haven't seen it.
Media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 It's still chilling to watch that.
Yeah, that's a tough one to really wrap your mind around. It's such hard evidence that what you see on the news is really truly scripted and controlled. I mean, you have that many local news outlets saying the exact same thing. You know 100% that there's a puppet master at the top of that.
We had a little glimpse of it before. There were some small things that happened, but this video really just exposed it to another level.
Yeah.
I think this video is the start of things, of people being aware of the lockstep manipulation that the programming that was going on.
That definitely is a powerful tool to help awaken people to understand that. And you see it actually today. I mean, there's so much less trust in media, you know, and you can't watch a video like this and not all of a sudden have reduced trust for what they're saying to you.
Just props to this creator that put this editing together and the vision to do that. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Or whoever it was.
Yeah. To pull all that together.
Well, we should find out who it is and give them credit. But I think that video really is a good reference for summing up that first bullet point.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't really want to go bullet point by bullet point, but I do want to show some similar evidence to this. So this references your local news media, but if we look at this chart here, this references print media. So what this is a chart of is, this is New York Times data. So all of the articles they've written from 1970 to 2018 and the word usage frequency. And then you can see the chart and the word above it and how often it comes up. And one of the most chilling things that appears for me on this is how certain terms that are relatively new, like toxic masculinity. What's up?
Yeah, look at toxic masculinity. It's like it almost doesn't exist.
Right.
And then it just skyrockets.
Yep. Straight to the top. And then you have male privilege, white privilege. All of a sudden, white nationalism, never mentioned and is only mentioned recently.
And that one, see how that one kind of leveled off a little bit? Like,
which one?
White nationalism.
Yeah, it starts to come down a little bit. We have racist, racism, racists, institutional racism. And then it's almost like you can kind of see these are all brought up so often today. I mean, the news media will accuse somebody of being racist for literally stepping on a crack on a sidewalk.
I was accused of being racist, and I am not racist.
Well, tell us that story.
I mean, this was like Facebook stuff, and I think it was around the 2016 election, you know, and people are doing political, and I would expose maybe a little bit of my conservative side, and I would instantly be called a racist. I mean, by many people. And at that time, I had a black girlfriend. She had 2 kids. We lived together for like a year. I mean, like, I am not a racist.
Yeah.
And here I was, just literally, I mean, it wasn't 100 people, but probably like 20, 30 people just.
Yeah. And it's wild too how much power this stuff has, right? Like, patriarchy, for example, so you can see it was hardly mentioned at all, and then all of a sudden it shoots way up. Same with mansplaining. Like, these are all of the things that you see the crazy people on social media freak out about and get triggered about constantly.
But there's a design in that, you know.
Oh, 100%.
The manipulation design, and these graphs really bring out in this period of time how these words just skyrocketed.
And there's got to be, so these are obviously, like, when you see it shoot straight up, that's manipulation.
You know, like the xenophobia, you know, like patriotism.
Yeah, here.
Patriotism became twisted, and every patriot was called a xenophobe all of a sudden.
And then the other interesting thing is too, I was looking at this earlier, microaggression. Here it is right here. Let me get over there.
Oh, there it is.
Where?
Up a little bit.
Right here, okay. You can see, like, this was an attempt, and the attempt failed.
Yeah.
Right? Red all of a sudden shot out through the roof, and then that was it. It was over with. Right here. It's not even mentioned anymore.
It was seen as a macroaggression.
The microaggression?
Yeah.
Using microaggression. But the other interesting thing is you have ones that are more organic looking. So hurtful looks to be a relatively organic looking chart here. Yeah, spikes up and down, but it's kind of, actually it really spikes up right here. That's when it starts a strong uptrend. Traumatizing.
Safe space.
Safe space, yeah. Look, church is going down. Multiculturalism is an interesting one because more than likely they were just talking about multiculturalism in a benign manner.
It's interesting, seeing this graphical breakdown of our language and words used in the media now, years later, and then like my memory goes back to all these being heard in the media over and over and over and over and over again, like a programming psyop.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. I had a friend accuse me of being a xenophobe because I believed in a strong border. And this friend has never even left the country, and I've traveled to literally over 15 countries, as if I'm somehow scared of people who are slightly different than me. It made no sense at all. You really got to watch out for those people because they are straight NPCs.
Yeah.
You know, they really have no thought process of their own.
Some people are subjected to more manipulation than others. Honestly, I've been manipulated. I've been a victim of it.
Yeah.
I broke out of it, fortunately, but it's easy to be manipulated when you're like emotionally or you're impassioned about something. Or fear.
Yeah.
Like
fear has got to be one of the most powerful manipulators.
Yeah. Every time I hear this fear-mongering stuff, it just red flags go off of me. It's just like my common sense says, what is really going on here?
But fortunately, people are becoming less and less trustworthy.
I think so.
So I also have a graph real quick just to show that. So we can see here the trust in media reaches a new low in the United States, and this goes till 2023. And the red line is people who have no trust at all in media, which is now up to almost 40%. And the blue line is somebody who has a great deal of or a fair amount of trust in the media, which is now down to 32%, below people that actually trust it. So that's good. That's almost like an awakening. Because if we just real quick look over what ChatGPT mentioned of signs of a society that is either not under manipulation or how it can come out of manipulation, it has amplify independent media, support whistleblowers and truth tellers, encourage an open dialogue, the complete opposite of censorship, and increase awareness and education.
Those are valid too. ChatGPT did a good job, I feel like, breaking this down.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised at how well it did. Everything it said was very relevant. And if you ask it for sources, it lists sources too. Mm-hmm. I guess one of my questions is, obviously it comes from power. Like, so people who want to manipulate the society want to manipulate it to keep themselves in power, keep themselves rich, or put themselves in power. And that's really the only true reason I could see for media manipulation or societal manipulation. But the other interesting thing is, like, there I think are people that actually agree with the censorship, agree with that whole side of the platform that's for the manipulation.
That there obviously is a large number of people, high up and even regular folk.
Yeah.
That
we've all run into people that support.
It blows my mind.
Cancel culture, or
I feel like they're the Karens of the world, or they're the people that, if there is people that like the traffic cameras, the red light traffic cameras and stuff like that, I just don't understand it. Like, where does this stop?
Right.
I feel like they're the same people that want to, make everybody get licenses to do all these things and certifications and regulations and just taxes. I feel like they're the same people.
Yeah.
And it troubles me because I just don't think, personally for me, this dystopian societies with these cameras everywhere and social credit scoring and new world order, whatever you want it, digital currency that's trackable. There's people that want this shit out there.
That's the crazy part.
There's people probably watching this show that want this.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they're not watching this show, but there probably are a few.
There are.
But they're gone now. They left just... You know, that reminds me, the surveillance and privacy invasion part, which is kind of what you're talking about with the licenses and the cameras and all of that. I was in the airport like 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere in the States, doing international travel, and I was just waiting in line, and it was a relatively long line in front of me, and I was watching everybody scan their boarding passes to get by a security checkpoint. And I noticed every time they did that, a little green light would pop up on a device on the left. And there was 3 lights there. It was green, yellow, and red. And I watched everybody in front of me go. It must have been 30 people at least. And all of them got the green light. And when I went up and scanned mine, I got a yellow light on my boarding pass.
Holy shit, Dave.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Nothing. I mean, here's the crazy...
Must be on a list or somewhere.
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're building archetype files on everybody when it comes to social media platforms, what you like, what you don't.
I agree.
What engages you.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're doing all this data sniffing. Everybody's got a archetypal data sheet that might list their political leanings and...
Right. I mean, the example it gave was that in the EU, 60%, over half of the citizenry were under some form of surveillance by the state, right? Not commercially. But actual surveillance by the state. That to me is disgusting. I don't know how somebody could look at that and think that's okay. But the funny thing is I told that story to a friend after it happened, and he immediately said, without any question, he goes, that's so stupid that they would classify people based on what they might watch on YouTube or what they read. You know what I mean? I really feel like, and that's what I thought too, right? Because I'm not a felon. I've never been accused of stealing or anything like that. So there's really no other reason for that to pop up other than the fact that they've already been working on some sort of social credit score or rating that they're applying to people.
It could be a lot of things. I mean, like you used to have a pretty successful YouTube show on trading crypto.
Yeah, true.
What if that light went red?
That's a good
question. I don't
question.
think you were going to get on that plane.
You know, I asked...
That means stop. You ain't getting on this plane.
That's what you would think. Green, yellow, red, right? Just like a traffic light. I asked the guy. I mean, I straight confronted him about it in a no bullshit manner. I said, hey, I watched everybody scan their boarding pass and they all got green, but when I scanned, that light came up yellow. What's going on with this? And he immediately just said, I don't even know what that light is.
There was a time, it reminds me a little bit of a time when I had a weird dystopian moment when I was flying through Chicago, and this had never happened. I've been to Chicago many times, and this particular time they made us all line up in a line of 4 people and briefed us that the dogs were going to come in and walk in front of us and sniff us down, and it was just like, oof, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And I personally felt uneasy, but juxtaposed with that, they had this like flashy marketing, and there was this bank of 8 or 10 really futuristic looking eye scan devices that allowed you to bypass all that. And to me, I had this feeling like they had this flashy marketing about bypass this as opposed to the dogs.
Yeah. So it's like, give us your biometric data and we'll make things easier.
And I am never doing this eye scan bullshit. I'm telling you right now. It was just weird. Yeah. That is too much.
Yeah, that's certainly how Okay, so this makes me think, if you look into how people are becoming much less trustful of the media, and if this is a top-down societal manipulation, then whoever's running that manipulation was using that as a tool to control the public thought process to keep them in line in whichever way they wanted. And now that's starting to break down. And as the citizenry have less and less trust, and they're not as easily manipulated by just the media, then whoever this is doing the manipulation is going to have to go from like the sort of the mental manipulation to an actual physical.
Yes.
Right? If they want to retain power and keep control, it's going to have to come down and clamp down in a physical way rather than, the media way.
Right. If you want to fly, you're going to have to log into this system of eye scanning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Of course, it's sold as convenience.
Right. And it will always be sold as convenience and safety.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the stuff that is just, it keeps me up at night, this stuff. And it really, it makes me angry.
Yeah.
Like how far does this go? Where are we going? So we have a segment of our population that is into this dystopian control, constant surveillance, more and more surveillance, more and more laws, more and more what I perceive as infringements on my just day-to-day freedoms. And then we have a lot of people that I know are just like me and are like, this is not what the human condition is supposed to be. This is not good for the human spirit to be bombarded with this invasive big government control situation. And it's going to come to a head somewhere.
The interesting thing about that is it's kind of like the frog in a boiling pot analogy. Like, how do you boil a frog from cold water to warm? Like, if you throw a frog into a hot boiling pot, it's immediately going to jump out. But if you slowly raise the temperature over time, then you can actually boil the frog and it won't jump out because it's not aware, really, that it's getting too hot.
Well, I'm feeling pretty boiled right now already.
Yeah. Certainly the temperature is increasing.
This is the stuff that makes me think that we're going to head into something like some sort of civil war where people are going to have to rebel against this at some point instead of comply. It's going to reach a point where I can't be the only one that feels this way.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be as simple as, there's regions where they have your utopia, dystopian society where everybody's on camera and you give all your trust to this top-down government, and then maybe more rural societies will be free of that.
Yeah.
I hope that's the way it kind of turns out. Then these people can live in the environments that they want to, and the ones that have an incredible distaste for it, like myself, can be free of it.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that would be the way it would go, but the people who want the control aren't going to want you to slip through their fingers. I don't think they're going to really want to have freedom colonies out there, so to speak.
You're right.
People
it's kind of their nature.
Right.
It doesn't fit into the program. It's a scary thought.
They're going to want complete control. I saw something recently on the country of, I think it was Kenya or Nigeria. I don't remember which. But they're doing a new thing now where it's supposed to be ready in December for, instead of having a birth certificate, everybody gets a chip with their data on it implanted into them.
Yikes.
Which is pretty wild, because you would think that kind of thing would happen more in a first world country. First, like that kind of technology. But as it turns out, it could be in a more third world type country first.
I'm an empathetic by nature. I try to get my head into the minds of these people that want this top-down control. I just can't understand it. I just can't relate to it at all.
Yeah.
Like, what is the ultimate motivation for this? Is it Is it their safety? Is it like...
It would seem like it would come from some sort of like sick narcissist or something.
Maybe narcissist, okay. Yeah.
You know? Somebody who wants complete and total control. And it may ultimately stem from fear. So it could be safety. But I feel like it's more of a power, lust, control thing than it is anything else.
Maybe it's a little about money too.
Oh, 100%. That comes with power, you know?
Like an alpha mindset, just like taken way too far. It's very, I feel it's just so disrespectful.
Because when it gets too far, you're almost, you become like cattle of the government. You know what I mean? You're like a resource for them. You're not a person anymore, and the humanity is lost.
And then the manipulations and the deceit that come along with it, it's kind of evil. This subject really bothers me.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is something that I've been struggling with a big part of my life. You know? It's like, am I rebellious? I guess I'm rebellious for not wanting this. That's what they would label me, as a rebel right now, I guess. But.
Yeah, you would be like part of the resistance to them. And that's honestly not a bad way to look at it. I mean, just take the Star Wars analogy. You know, you have the resistance side and the Imperial side. And the Imperial side wants complete control of everything and everybody. And the resistance is saying no.
I just see this coming to a sticky place at some point.
The nice thing is, though, I mean, there are freedom fighters out there, right? And they're doing it. You have to have a certain amount of resources in order to actually fight back against something like this. And you have people like Elon Musk who bought Twitter, right, and opened that whole thing up, the whole platform up, as well as showed all of the government interference in that platform and all the censorship that was actually going on.
Yeah, if he wouldn't have spent $44 billion on Twitter, we would have never known that the federal government was actively infringing on people's First Amendment rights.
Right. And I remember being on Twitter, because there was this period of time that felt very oppressive to me. And I remember being on Twitter and being careful of what I would like or what I would comment, because I knew that platform was run by people who are pure leftists. You know what I mean? And really, censorship really is only coming from the left right now. The idea of censorship and limited speech and things like that is all coming from the left. And I'm a conservative personally. So I remember just being real careful there. And I was I was kind of doing like a self-censorship. And then I remember hearing stories of other people online coming from communist countries, and they were saying that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You start to self-censor because you're fearful of what the reaction could be.
Elon Musk is kind of a rebel hero in this picture. Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
What is a woman? Real simple, real just pure genius. You know, what is a woman? And these people would sit at these hearings and they look like idiots because they can't answer that question.
Right, which is such a simple question.
That's what the rebellion needs to be. It needs to be like that.
Like intellectual,
but simple.
He's got a new one out now too. Am I a Racist? I haven't seen it yet, but I heard it's really good.
You know, that's the way to do it. It's not like to be a Unabomber or a terrorist.
Oh yeah, God, no.
You know,
there's actually more, or I don't know if it's more, but there's the same evil in doing that as the control. Exactly. You know, it's like two sides of the same coin sort of thing.
It's more powerful when it's intellectual.
Yeah.
And it is a war of the minds out there.
Absolutely.
We need more rebels. If it gets much more, I'm going to be a damn rebel. I'm telling you, I'm going to come up with something.
Yeah.
Because it really does. We're at the point where these ideologies of top-down control start to affect your everyday life. For instance, for my my nephews that come up in the summertime, I wanted to build a treehouse in the backyard. Well, I got to get a permit. You know, it's a $400 permit here to build a treehouse. I don't want to deal with all that bullshit for a treehouse.
Right.
There's just a little example right there.
The tough part is just like, as a common person, what can you really do? I mean, aside from like casting your vote at the ballot box, what options do you really have? because it really does take some sort of resources. I mean, like, it took Elon $44 billion. He had to raise $44 billion plus whatever he put in to get it done. And that's a lot of money.
That's before him just being villainized in the media constantly.
Right.
He's not a popular figure with a lot of people.
Yeah, there's an interesting reaction from the people who you can almost start to identify who's for this kind of control manipulation top down based on the reactions that you see when big events like that happen.
Yeah, another good example is Trump. Just here we have an outsider for the first time in a long time trying to be president, and whew,
right, 2 assassinated.
It ain't over.
Attempts.
Like, how ugly could that get? I'm not sure those people can even handle Trump being president. Like,
yeah, and another thing I heard somebody mention that I think it was Russell Brand was saying after the lawfare failed, all of a sudden he's been shot at twice now, which is another thing that kind of freaks me out, because when people lose distrust in the media and they lose that mental control state, it's going to become physical. And it's just, how's it going to get there? Because fortunately we are a country of laws, but it's all going to have to be battled out. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a big battle. But I'm talking more like it's going to be legal battle after legal battle after legal battle, and cost so much money to get control of the platforms. And you're going to have to ideologically win over the people, if possible, who are in control of some of the platforms.
I think the tables have turned a little bit, though.
I think they have too.
Starting to win a little bit. But I think a lot of those people that are all for this dystopian society, I don't think you're going to change all of them.
Yeah, it's tough because you really have to reflect on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I often used to wonder how it is that the German population allowed the genocide of the Jews to happen. Like, why did the average people, why were they willing to go along with this? Like, that's sick. You know, it's so easy to look back on it and say that, but you can see all the different manipulation tactics they use, and people need to like really take a good look at themselves and where they're at in this and why. And I think a lot of it is general fear. They just fearmonger and fearmonger and fearmonger and fearmonger and other people and other people and other people, you know, like
we saw that in COVID for sure.
100%. Yes. 100%.
And it's interesting, that one graph, I noticed that where it intersects and the distrust in the media got higher.
Oh, yeah.
And the trust in media went lower. That intersection was like mid-COVID. You know who the other rebels are that I've been kind of watching little video clips of that's interesting? Is these sovereign citizens.
Yeah.
I think that's a fascinating movement where these people are claiming their... I need to do more research on this, but they're trying to extrapolate themselves from the judicial systems, and they ride without a license or a license plate. Getting held over. They have the videos and they videotape all the time, and they all, you know, they don't mention their last name, and they said, you know, I'm not participating in commerce, and it's like they just and
some of them get away.
They do.
They get stopped by the cops having no license plate, and then they're allowed to drive away after the whole ordeal.
I mean, big Cajon. I don't know if I could do that personally, but I would love, I mean, that concept of like extrapolating yourself from this overwhelming system is very compelling to me. Like,
yeah, and the fact that it somehow or another they actually do it legally.
They have groups you can join apparently. And they'll give you like a binder of legal documents, and you don't comply with a lot of stuff. I'm sure there's some ugly stuff. People get dragged out of cars. They get their cars impounded. I've heard about that. But
I do know, like, so your registration isn't valid until you sign it.
Right.
Until you like agree to whatever the terms are on your registration. Everybody just signs it because they know they're supposed to, but there's something behind that.
When you comply and you sign, you enslave yourself almost.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting to understand that at a detailed level, like what exactly is going on in there with the legal mechanisms behind that to allow something like that to happen.
But those guys are everyday rebels. out there driving a car without insurance and carrying ID. Wow.
I've seen that, man. I feel like it's like farmers. Like there's farmers somehow are like made differently or something.
They are made differently.
Not that they're all farmers,
but the ones that I've seen, they're well spoken.
But you know, those people are going to be labeled a certain way by the system.
Oh yeah, the media, they make them try to look like crazies.
Yeah. Not only crazies, I've heard them called domestic terrorists.
Slap a label on it.
Right. And make sure it's real bad. Even though they're really not out there hurting anybody.
No.
You know?
No.
They're just living their lives like everybody else. Some of the most brave people are probably the whistleblowers.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
And they're able to, that brings out so much awareness. Like if you look at Snowden, all he did was say, hey, the government's watching everybody all the time with everything they do. And then they try to vilify him, even though I'm pretty sure that's illegal on the government's part. And now he's not even allowed back in the United States. And he had a family here, a wife and a child.
Yeah, he's probably still in hiding.
Yeah, he's in Russia. Russia took him.
There's been a lot of whistleblowers, and a lot of them are still in hiding. I think some of them are in jail.
Yeah, Julian Assange is another.
We need more of these. And I think you're starting to see a little more of these government whistleblowers or these FBI whistleblowers, you know, because that's the power structure that needs to be exposed the most at this point. And, you know, like these agencies like the FBI, the CIA, whatever, they're I don't think they're all bad actors. There's a lot of good people there.
Right.
But there's some bad actors with a little too much power or something.
I think actually when we were talking earlier about what is it that makes a person want to do something like that, to manipulate from the top down and regain control, I think it actually comes down to a corrupt heart.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like at a very basic point, it would all stem from some sort of
childhood.
But somebody who says, I would rather have power over somebody else's freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Like a Karen.
Yeah, like a Karen, but on another level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the ultimate Karen, so to speak. Because you've got to have that bit of corruption in there. Your heart has to be somewhat corrupt to want to do that to other people, to want to force society into that kind of life.
Well, I think the power of it is sort of an elixir or drug for them, maybe.
There's a saying for that, right? Enough power corrupts.
There is a good quote on that.
Yeah, I can't remember what that is, but it's like enough power will corrupt a man. But there's an actual much better quote. And that's what it is, man. It leads to a corrupt heart.
You know, I'd like to see some people in the comments. I feel like I got a little over passionate and but I can't be the only one that feels this way.
Yeah. So this is another.
If you feel the way I do, make me feel better and let me know I'm not crazy.
Alrighty, guys. I think we're going to wrap this one up. It's kind of tough to come to any real conclusion on this one, but at least, you know, I think it's important to at least talk about. So, like he said, put your thoughts down below. Where would you stand on this issue if push came to shove? Do us a big favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see our other videos. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.